Jim Duxbury, you ready for our little demonstration this evening, sir?
We're ready. We're
All
ready.
right. Now, Jim, stand by 1 second. Now, Jim, you have to unmute yourself.
You
sir.
got it. You got it.
All right. Go ahead, please.
Okay, I'm going to do a share. And they come up. This demo is going to be a little different. I wasn't sure I was even going to do this a couple of days ago, but I said I'd fill in. And can you see that picture?
Yes, sir, we do.
Did it come up? Okay. It's me and my wife, Rita, who's become a very good turner. And the thing on her shoulder is a parrotlet. It's the smallest of the parrots. And he's a very good turner too. He loves being out in the shop, and he sits on your shoulder and crawls in behind the face shield when the chips start flying. I say she is 15 years old. We bought it as a he and had it for 13 and a half years, and he's been to the vet many times, and then he laid an egg. So now it's a she. Those things can happen nowadays. This is going to be more on creativity. If you've got any questions, don't hesitate to ask. We do wood turning day and night. I made up my mind when cameras started coming out and all of this Zoom stuff that I would turn during the day. At night, I write for wood turning magazines, do plans and the bookwork and things. And I am not going to put cameras in that shop because the next thing is a bed, and I'm not doing that. Okay. You got to call a halt one of these days. Let me see if I can change this.
You know, I'm fine with that idea, Jim, just as long as you keep showing us the stuff.
Well, you got it here.
Okay.
This is my shop. The part with the garage door itself is the main shop, and that was here originally. And after about 10 years, I outgrew it and couldn't move in there. So the thing on the side over here is the addition. Nope, the wrong way. This is the side door going in. Some of the log pilers, logs out and back. But I show the door here because this is standing in the doorway now looking into the shop. So the bandsaw is on the left here. There's two tables that are rolling. These tables are super strong. That's a 1.5 inches. Some kind of desktops that they quit making years ago, but solid core, really strong. And they're about 1/4 inch below the table saw height over here. So when I get sheet goods like plywood and things, I can turn the table saw 90 degrees, put one of these in front of the table and one in back, and run plywood through there. If you notice on the shelf up here, there's a bunch of black cans. Those were all Maxwell House or coffee cans with bolts and nuts in them. And you could spend a half a day going through cans looking for a bolt or a nut. So I painted all the cans black, took something out of each can and glued it on the front of each one of them. So now I got them all indexed. And then the next picture is a lot of people have shops. Some have studios. I have a boardroom. This is my boardroom. And this is looking in at the other section. There's a table saw, a jet table saw on the left here. Has a router built into the tabletop. That was a bowling alley at one time, that bench, the outfeed table. And all the fences for the router and the table saw are underneath here. There's a sander. I love this sander. My Powermatic is on the side here. I talk every now and then about a Chopsmith, and that sits on the end. There's a Delta lathe here, and this is my wife's lathe and a little footstool so she can reach it. And she has a table with all her tools on it that nobody can touch. The table here, all my tools are wired. Everything is wired. You'll see plugs across the front of here. This whole table is wired. It's on wheels. And you can roll this. There's one wire. You can kind of see it over here through here. One wire goes over to the wall. You can take this whole table out in the driveway and plug one plug in. Both these lathes will work. All these lights work. The grinder works, the sander on the end, and the drill press. Everything is plugged into that. And that's the same with the lathe too. You'll see that later. I have a rolling table here with all my tools on it. I have all my tools in order. That first tool is a parting tool, and next one's a point scraper, next one's a round nose scraper. So when I turn around to pick up a tool, I know exactly where it is. This drawer has sandpaper and all the sanding discs. This drawer has all the adapters, and then there's all chucks and junk underneath there. Everything has a dust collection to it. I did dust collection for 30 years, industrial sheet metal. And each one of these things is called a blast gate. It's an on-off valve. Each one is wired. So when you open this, there's a dust collector in the corner, comes on. And when you close it, it shuts it off. But each one of those is connected. This is looking the other way. This is all the wood racks and stuff. This is some years ago. You should see it now. I'm not showing you now, but anyway, when I did it, I didn't like the moldings. The moldings were expensive for around the door, so I made all the moldings around the door, casings for the windows and all that stuff. These are rare wood cutoffs and all kinds of stuff. All jigs for the bandsaw. I'm famous for kaleidoscopes. We make all kinds of kaleidoscopes. I used to make these 8 and 10 at a time. It's a traditional kaleidoscope. The end has objects in it, and there's mirrors down the middle, and eyepiece on the end here. This is bloodwood and canary. Some of these things are this is made out of three pieces of wood. And a lot of times we make these and have them engraved. This was for the Brewster Society. Brewster invented kaleidoscopes in 1816. That's another whole story, but anyway, that's what it looks like inside them. I have all kinds of these images. I won't bore you with those, but if you don't have objects in a kaleidoscope, you just have a kaleidoscope with mirrors and an eyepiece and a clear lens on the end, it's called a teleidoscope. And if you mount your camera on a teleidoscope, you get a primary triangle in the middle, and these are all reflections off of it. And you can take all kinds of pictures. My neighbors think I'm nuts because I'm out there on my hands and knees taking pictures of it. This is a dandelion in the grass. I have some with bees and all kinds of fun stuff. But this is a picture just to show what can be done. The primary triangle's in the center with a small hollow form on it. And then this is done in my shop, just horsing around. But all these are reflections off of that. In a kaleidoscope, if you have 3 mirrors, you get triangles that reflect off of this. These are all triangles all the way around here, the same as the primary triangle. If you have 2 mirrors and a black side, you get a mandala. And a mandala is like a star. And the degree of this angle here divided into 360 is how many points would be on the star. So if this was a black side on this, you'd get a 6-pointed star. You can do all kinds of things with kaleidoscopes. But anyway, This is another version of it, upright version, in case you don't have shelf space, but you can see the end here. That's where the objects would be. This one is lighted. This is the same kaleidoscope, same plans. The objects are in here. If you put a solid object in here, like a quarter, it's like holding a quarter up to the sun. You see the black side of it. If you put lights in here on the inside of this and batteries in the handle, and this is an on-off switch, you can show coins, gears, shells, leaves, all kinds of things that you couldn't show in a regular kaleidoscope. The eagle on the back of a quarter is gorgeous to see in a kaleidoscope. But anyway, you squeeze this trigger and the lights come on. There are 3 bulbs in here, full spectrum white screw-in light bulbs. These are not LEDs. LEDs are too purple or bluish. That's what it looks like. You can see the trigger. I actually have plans for all these things if anybody wants to make one, but you cut in on the handle, you cut in here and you go in the back here and you come down, you come straight down and you cut out the object box and you go back through that same channel and come out here, and that makes the trigger and it makes an object box or a battery box. So it's kind of a neat design. But anyway, any questions so far? Or just this is the same kind of thing. The battery box is underneath. There's the on-off switch. Objects go in the end, and a harp here for elevation. This is a bunch of them. These went to Washington, D.C., a big dinner or something up there. They sold them up there. Kind of came out yellowish. I don't know. Not the greatest photographer. One of the hardest parts of wood turning is being a photographer. The guy wanted a special one of these. So something really special. I don't remember what the occasion was, but anyway, I started dreaming up something special. I made this. This is driven with agate beads, half-inch diameter or 50 millimeter agate beads. They go around this drive and they go around here and go over here. This has gears cut in it the same size as the agates, and they come around the back and go over the top and back around here. And the light bulb hanging on the agate beads underneath here turns the light on. It was quite a job. There's still beads in my shop. The beads are strung on monofilament line. And I ended up having to glue every damn bead on that line, because if you don't, as you start pulling on them, they start bunching up, and then you run into spaces that don't have any beads. And if you drop one end, every bead on the entire line runs off of it and goes under everything in a place. There's beads out there that'll never be found, I swear. I think there was 108 of them on this string. I can't tell you how many times they put beads on that daggone string. This is what it looks like inside. There again, this is lit now on the inside. So you can see there's some gears in here. I don't know what this stuff is, but anyway, there's all kinds of stuff in here. He really liked it. This is one of my first designs. It's a floor model kaleidoscope. And this has the elevation control and a crank to turn it. You'll see this later, but it didn't have a swivel joint in it. Also, when I sold these things, I had to crate them, and to crate it was a bugger, because the first crate I made was out of plywood and it was all padded, and oh God, it was gorgeous. And I took it to UPS and they said, "We don't accept wooden crates." You gotta be kidding. So I took it home and I clad the whole thing in cardboard. They girthed it and height that, and it has to be within 108 inches, I think. I was 109 inches. And I had to bring that home and take it apart and do, anyway. That would never happen again. So I made this one. This model has the elevation control. It has, this is the crank to turn the object on, or the object box on the end. This has a swivel here. It also has a little lever right there. You'll see this later, I think. That lever is down, and in that down position, you can lift this up. It's 1 unit. When you lift this up, that swivel comes apart. This leg, these legs pull off of here, and these 4 legs come apart. So you can ship this in a small box. You do get smart after a while, I'll tell you. Oh, this is the little releasing lever here, but this is a swivel joint in here. This is a crank to turn the end here. And this is the elevation control, Celtic knot. It's fluted. This is the other side. It's got a 90-degree set of gears, and it's got a parallel set of gears here that are sort of loose. That lets it click. I thought wooden gears should click. And it sounds pretty good now. This is all cherry with maple trim. This button here turns the lights on inside. It's drilled inside here. There's 2 AA batteries fit inside of this, 3 light bulbs in the end, and it has oil-filled object boxes and things. This is a 3-mirror 30, 60, 90-degree triangle. So the object, the hole is off to the side, to the bigger side of the mirrors. And that's what it looks like laying down. Here's the releasing lever. And here, that has a dowel go straight through with a flat spot in it. And that dowel fits into that groove there in the swivel. So that's the locking mechanism. The legs go together, these fit inside each other, and that goes down on top of it. The Brewster Society had a convention, and the theme was up, up, and away. So we made, I don't know how many, 40 of these things, little rocket ships, and some were in kits that they wanted to put together there. So we made some in kits and some together and whatever else. But there's a little, it goes on a little brass rod, welding rod or something. The end is turned acrylic and polished. It's 3 mirrors with objects underneath here and an eyepiece. You'll see we had a great time doing this. We are a team. She likes doing this more than I do, believe it. Sometimes anyway, we made these things up, and this is running them through the table saw, cutting the miters. And this is gluing them up. There's 3 pieces glue up into a triangle. And when you turn the outside round, there's a triangle down the middle of it to put the mirrors in. So it's not like a drilled kaleidoscope where you have a triangle in the middle and a drilled hole. Here's, I forget what we're cutting here, but anyway, that's gluing them up. I always mark the outside of my pieces. I look at each board, pick the good part or whatever I want inside, and put a big mark on the outside. In fact, I mark almost everything. When I go up to the saw, I don't have to think about what I'm doing. It's marked. This is what it looks like turned. You can see the inside is triangular and the outside is round. This is what the pieces look like when they're these are turned nose cones, eyepieces. These are the barrels. So, and then there's discs somewhere. There's discs go inside here, and the nose cone goes on top, and objects go in there, and then the nose cone goes on there. But anyway, they were a big hit. We had a great time. Well, this is painting them or finishing them. This is a little timer. This is a rotisserie that I screwed a wooden block to. It fits in my joist, my vise. And it's got I think it's about a 1/4-inch square drive, but it's got a 1/4-inch square cut into the end of a broomstick or something that sticks out here. So all I do is slide these over that broomstick, turn the timer on to 10 minutes or something. And as it turns, I can spray it with lacquer. And that way you can give it a really good heavy coat, and it doesn't run. It keeps turning. These are the bases being finished. The wings, you didn't want glue on the bottom of the wing. I mean, you didn't want finish on the wings. So I cut plywood and stick them in there. It holds them up straight, and it eliminates having to mask the slot or the tongue on the end of that goes into the kaleidoscopes. And that's what it looks like, up and away.
Awesome.
They were a real hit. These things are all over the world. I mean, a bunch of them went to Japan. England has a couple. I don't remember where, but they went all over the world. I do turn hats. This is a maple hat and a couple of small hats. And that's a poplar hat. I thought that was going to be a piece of scrap. It had a rotten log went right through the side of the tree, and it ended up, it stained it just beautifully. So it came out really nice. I turned another poplar hat and came out great. And I thought on the other side of the poplar tree, I could turn a woman's hat. And I thought, why would I do that? I'd turn a pair of underwear. So I turned a pair of, this is size 34 jockey shorts. It looked like a fun turning, but it was a bugger to do. I tell you, a hat has about an 8-inch diameter crown, about 5 inches high. This thing is 10 inches in diameter and 10 inches high or something. To get the height, to get the size of them, I calipered you can caliper the front and back of your body, but to get the height, I had to pull the shades in my shop. I had a level between my legs and I'm putting marks on the wall. The problem with that is when you look down to see where the bubble is, your behind goes up. And I had marks all over the wall. I finally got the thing figured out, but it's
I hope Rita got pictures of all this.
Oh yeah. He wasn't allowed in there. It's not just the round piece turned oval or squeezed oval. Like the crotch is flat this way and radius the other way. That has to be bent. And the holes in the side, if you look at a pair of underwear, the holes are not not round holes in the center. They're off to the front.
Hey,
It
Jim,
was more than I thought I was getting into. Right? Yeah.
Hey, Jim, he should have waited to show that for the Show Me Your Crotch challenge.
Oh, you got it. No, never mind. Yeah, there's been a lot said about it. I think I've shown this. This is some of these I've shown before. This is a drawing of a chandelier. I was in Murano, Italy, and they make all kinds of stained glass, blown glass, every kind of glass you can imagine. But I didn't even like glass till I came out of there. But I saw a chandelier and I thought that was really neat. And so I came home and made one out of, first I wanted to buy one. And my wife said, you know, if you get home and one of those things is broken, that whole thing's shot. You're never going to get another piece. And so on the plane, I drew that up. And when I got home, I made this up. It's cherry and maple. There's 5 arms on it with LED bulbs. That's all the parts and pieces. This is the bottom. These arms, that was a circle turned front and back. It's got a hole through the middle. It's turned in 2 layers. So it's got a wire chase through the middle of it. When I got all done, I cut it in half and put trim pieces in here and offset it to make the arms. The stem is fluted. These curlicues are in 3 pieces. Maybe you can see it better somewhere else. This is the arm itself. And the stem is, or these things are in 3 pieces. If this is one piece, this would be, these are bandsawed out of a flat piece of wood. If this is one piece, you'd have side grain across here somewhere and it would break. By making it out of 3 pieces, it actually becomes springy. It is super strong. I think I only broke one, but this is fluting it. Like I said, I do a lot of things on the Shopsmith that can't be done anywhere else. I made a degree wheel to fit the thing, the chuck part, and this locks in here on, I think I can do 2.5 degrees, I think, and then I have a vernier takes it down to 1/2 degree if I want it, but this wheel does 2.5 degrees. This is a Fordham type tool with a ball cutter in the end, held on a platform, on a flat platform here. The end of this is rounded, and the depth gauge has nothing to do with the end of this ball. The depth gauge is this piece cut over here. This thing, before I set the depth of this, I set it at 0, back it off, and follow this, and then put a mark across. This sits on top of that piece of plywood, and I get the curvature that I need of this cut that I'm making. Then I cut this out, reset this, and bring this into the depth that I want, and that makes this cut here, makes that shape there. And that's really nice, because if you wanted a deep here to taper out, you could actually make this thicker on this end, and it would taper out. Or if you wanted a bump in the middle or whatever, I made another one for the other section, but that really works nice. I make balls. I don't know if I've ever shown these or not. These are 4 balls. When you spin the top one, they all spin and run around here. And a race on the bottom. These are, oh, what are those brown ones? Meringue. Rita knows all the words. Marabo. I can't remember anyway. I made a bunch of different ones. These are Wangi and maple. It's hard enough to make 4 balls that match. They got to be all perfectly round and almost perfectly the same size. But then you have to make a race, and the race is the hardest part, because I draw this so I know what it's going to be. And when you make the race, there has to be about a 1/4 inch clearance between the balls. So this race has to be tangent on the bottom and the side here, and leave about a 1/4 inch space in the middle there, so these will roll. I have been thinking about making this electrified, and some of my friends, when I showed it, said, "I can't believe you didn't make that motor operated." So I made a set that's motor operated. These are the 4 balls and the race, and the center section right here is motorized. That center section turns, runs on a I think it's an 18-volt motor, 40 RPM motor. That's the motor set in the bottom of the block of wood with a square drive. I could show videos on this, but you'll see enough. Another thing I'd like to do is I like to use geometry. In geometry, any 2 spheres that intersect each other leave a perfect circle hole, no matter what size they are. And you could turn a square, a cube, a little bit bigger than halfway of this cube, and turn another sphere in the side of that. Where they intersect, it'll leave round holes. It's got to be exactly centered on here, exactly the size sphere. You do it with templates. And if this is off, to one side, you'll have a big hole in one side and a little hole in the other side. But it's kind of interesting. We demo this, we've done some workshops of this. This one here is turned, this one's a spear on this side, and these are done with Forster bits and then tuned up on the lathe. But anyway, these are drilled straight in and then a flat surface. They're drilled in at a specific depth, 2 different sized drill holes. And if you have a spear going into a flat surface, it leaves like an oval. You can't see the, if you have a sphere, I forget what, this is the sphere going into a flat surface. On the sphere side, it leaves a football shape. On the other side, it leaves a square side and a half round. Anyway, we make a bunch of those different things. That's looking at a bigger one to the side.
Think what you're saying.
And this is the end view of it. This is jumped. This was done for the AAW for some kind of contest they had. It had to be within 8 inches. You had to fit, had to have a cube within and be within an 8-inch cube, fit within an 8-inch cube. But anyway, it's turned 4 vortexes, set on the corner. Kind of fun. Didn't win. These I've shown the jig for this. These are lace cut bowls, I call them. This is a 5-lobe cam with a 1-inch deflection. This is a 4-lobe cam with an 1.5 inch deflection. And this is a straight cut with a lace cut on the back of it. This one, I saw Hans Weislog show a bowl, but he wouldn't tell how he did it. So I came home and I made one. If I see a demo, almost every time I come home and make it, but you won't see too many more of these. I noticed later that he doesn't put a foot on his, and that gives you another point to triangulate these things off of. But anyway, it's got to be a perfect spear. These are a 1/16 wide by a 1/16 deep, and the bowl is an 1/8 of an inch deep. So where the designs cross each other, you can see through it. It's really neat. Just some gorgeous work. And these are the lace cut bowls again. I had shown that before, I think. Huh. You've seen a lot of these dizzy bowls. They're usually, or they're always straight-sided V-shape. And I wanted to make one that was OG. So I made these. This is done in layers. This whole thing is a piece of, it's a bunch of wood about 1.25 inches thick, various widths, glued up to make a 12 by 12 piece, 12 by 12 by 1.5 inches or 1.25 inches thick. And then there's slices cut off of it. And each slice, I don't know if I show my pattern. Anyway, each slice of this is a 2-color one. Each slice of this is cut. There's like 4 or 5 slices. This ring would be cut out of the middle of maybe this ring, and that ring would be cut out of the middle of that ring, and that ring would be cut out of the middle of this one. So out of each slice, you'd get 4 or 5 slices, and then you glue them up and step them. I think on this one, I used this pattern here as the indexing to step this around. And the top is made out of, this is Wangian maple.
Think what you're saying.
This is a similar thing. This is made probably about 5x5 block of wood glued up out of all little pieces. And then cut into discs, maybe 1/4 of an inch thick. The discs are indexed to make a pattern and glued back together. And then you've got a cylinder that's maybe 5 inches in diameter and 6 inches or 8 inches long, and you turn that into a natural edge bowl. Don't do it. It's not worth the work. It's a lot of time and a lot of work for something that doesn't turn out that great. But you have to experiment. Some things work, some don't. This one was two sets of miter rings. I think that's ash and this is walnut. They're just little miter rings and they're glued together. They're cut. When you got 2 rings glued together, you cut them diagonally and take the one on the one side and glue it on the other side. So it gives you diagonal stripes. I think I showed this. This is a bowl from a board. You start out with a flat board and you cut these rings. So this ring fits underneath this one and this one fits underneath that one. And it makes a bowl like that from a flat board. And they look like that. And that's usually what they make the dizzy bowls. That's how they make the dizzy bowls. This is why a similar thing made out of, instead of a flat piece of wood, this would be a flat piece of wood, but these would all be strips glued together. Any questions so far? Everybody's, no questions.
They're sleeping.
This is good. You're sleeping. Huh. Anyway, this is glue, the same kind of thing. This is a piece about 8x8 glued up. Makes 8x8 by 1 inch thick, all glued up out of different colored strips. Then cut into a bowl and indexed. This one's hard to explain. This is glued up 10x10, about 1 inch thick, out of 3 different colored woods, maybe 3/8 of an inch thick. They're glued up, they're stacked up and glued. And then they're set on end and cut diagonally, and one piece put on the other side of the other piece. And then that's turned into a bowl like this. And that gives you that slanted pattern through each one of the rings.
That one almost hurts my eyes.
And we're not sleeping, we're stunned.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Exactly.
Nobody knows what to say. Man, these are really pretty.
That's wild, man.
So
Excellent work.
Jim, we do have one question back on the kaleidoscopes. There was a question wanting to know if the eyepiece was off center or if it was straight on dead center.
And you're muted, Jim.
It's muted.
Jim, you went mute. Oh, no.
Jim, can you press the space bar?
Doggone it.
He's
We'll
definitely
never
showing
know
up.
the answer.
There you go. He's showing up in the list as muted.
I can see him moving.
There
Unmute.
you go. Now he's off mute.
What,
Well, I don't know where,
There.
don't ask me how I got muted.
Yeah,
Can you-
later.
Yeah.
All right, so Jim, we had one question back
Yes.
on the, so there was a question on the kaleidoscopes where they were wanting to know if the eyepiece was on center or if it was off center.
explain that against.
In the traditional let me explain that later, okay?
Okay.
When we're done, I'll go back to that. I can show that.
Sounds good.
I have no idea how I got muted. A lot of things happen, I don't know. Anyway, this is a three-sided bowl turned from a cube. You've probably seen demos on this, but it starts out about a 8x8, or this is about a 6x6 cube of maple, and it's turned into a three-corner bowl. It's very hard to come up with bigger bowls, bigger blocks of dry wood, like if you want an 8x8 or a 10x10. So by gluing things up, you can develop that. This is about 1.5 inches square, maybe bigger than that, 1 3/4 square, probably wangi. You glue 2 pieces of maple or a cherry to it and face off the edge, and glue 2 pieces of cherry to that and face off the edge, and glue 2 pieces of maple to that. And the same way you build that up, and you can build up an 8x8 or a 10x10 cube with a design in it. Now I'll show different designs. This is the side view of it. End view, straight down. These sell unreal, but there's a lot of work to these things. This is a different one. This is made, I forget what this is. And this is a bloodwood one, I think. But you can see here, instead of the features put in the side more. This is a wangi and a cherry one. This one is a cherry and I forget what they call that cherry. Yeah, anyways, different kind, some kind of cherry and ash. No, ash, I think. And here's another pattern to glue up. This is about an 8x8 cube. It starts out with a 3/4 by 3/4 piece, 8 inches long, and you glue another one to it, the side of it. You face off the side of that, and then you glue a 1.5 inch by 3/4 by 8 inch long strip to that, and you face that off. No, here I glued this onto this side. I cheated on this one, I think. I glued one on this side, and then I glued one on this side, faced this off, glued this on here. No, I didn't. I glued 2 of these together. And I faced that off. That's probably a faster way of doing this rather than face this off. I glued these 2 together, faced this off, and I glued this on, probably in this off, faced this off. Anyway, you build this up and it looks, it gives you, I don't have a second picture of that. It gives you a nice pattern from the top. And you can use up all your scrap too, a lot of it. This is glued up with the feature piece right in this. No, it isn't. This is glued up in strips. This is glued up like 8x8 by whatever thickness strips you got, just stacked up to make it 8 inches this way by 8 inch by 8 inch. And when you turn it, you get a piece out the side. So as this is dishing around, this becomes round. I think I've shown this. This is the slatted vase. This is a piece of birch, about 8 inches wide and 18 inches long, bandsaw cut from both ends, back and forth to make it accordion, like that. And then it's sculpted on the top and the bottom to make whatever sculpting you want. And then you can spread it out, turn a piece for the top and bottom. This was an umbrella stand or something. And this, I make a bunch of these things. These are vases. It's got a cup in the middle. There's a disc in the middle here, and there's a couple different slots, so you can adjust the width of this thing. If you push this down, it makes that go out further. You can adjust the diameter of the top and get the effect you want. This is the sun. That's a yellow heart. And this is the same thing, only it's expanded. Instead of being in circle, it's spread out this way. These are spirals. This is a 3-center spiral. The center of the piece is turned out here. And then I lay this out. This is a 1-inch circle. The center of the piece is right here in between these two circles. So the design on the top of this is shifted this way toward the bottom, 1/4 inch. The design on the back of it is the same thing, shifted 1/4 inch the other way. So that gives you a 1/2 inch shift, and that puts this bar right through the center of that other circle. And then each one of these suspend a circle below that. I make these in all different configurations. The one in back is a Purple Heart. I think there's more of these. That's a 10-center turning. These are about 1/8 of an inch ribs, 3/8 of an inch apart. I made one of these for the heck of it. A guy bought this. I really didn't want to sell this, but he bought this. He turns it on its side. He says it's a fish. He loves it. Anyway, you never know. I made some lamps out of them. Lamps really sell. It takes a while to make these things, but I made a bunch of different lamps out of these things. These are small. I started out Christmas tree ornaments, but it ended up, they're kind of fun to do. And you can, with little ones, you can do all kinds of things. This is actually a block of wood about 3 inches by 4 inches, 3/8 of an inch thick. And I turned a design on the front. This is actually was turned in a circle and then cut in half at a 45-degree angle right through the center. And then this piece was flipped over and glued on. So it gives you an S shape through the middle. And this one was turned with a design on both sides, cut in half, and about 1/8 of an inch taken out of both sides. You can't hardly see it here, but it came out oval. We can have a lot of fun doing these things, and there doesn't take much wood. This is a 12-center turning. There's 1 center for the outside, and each one of these is 3 centers. This is the main center here, and it has a ring around it. But the second ring is tangent to the first ring. So the groove that goes around here is the same groove that would go around this one. And this one is tangent to this one. So this is 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then 12. The back is a 12. It's airbrushed yellow and red, and then sanded through just for a highlight. On these, on any of this stuff, I lay this out and make a drawing of it. I do that sometimes in the evenings. That's kind of fun to do in the evenings. but I have a couple glasses of wine while I'm doing this sometimes. Maybe you can tell. Anyway, and then I print it out and I actually use the print. I glue the print or the copy of the print right on the surface of this. And that gives me all my centers and the proportions and things. So I don't have to do a layout. This is a 10 center one. These are just 1 center. These are 3 centers. Kind of fun. And this is a Purple Heart 10 center. I really enjoyed Stuart Mortimer. He did this hollow form, and I like making hollow forms, so I made a hollow form, and this is out of popper. I think this was kind of experimental, and I thought it'd be neat to light it, so I turned a light bulb out of acrylic, like a Christmas tree light, and put a LED up in there, and there's 2 batteries in the bottom. When you turn the bottom, this thing lights up. It is that you just turn the bottom for the switch. The top here has these are turned brass plumbing fittings. It's a coupling and a piece of pipe that are turned out of brass. That's what it looks like. I like making brass threaded. I've done wooden threads, but if you sell your work and the weather changes and the thing doesn't come apart, you're in trouble. So I just don't do that anymore. It's great, but this works. Not only that, I can make these and I could screw this on a different hollow form if I want. I mean, it fits everything. So these work really good. I didn't like the light bulb. After I got done, I don't know, it didn't help things. So I ended up pulling that out, and turning another finial and fishing it down through here and putting this whole thing back together, do away with a battery box. And sometimes it looks good, but or sounds good, but it doesn't work. I did this just to see if I could do it. It's very hard to make 2 of these that match, that are the same size. And lefts and rights are even harder. So I decided to do lefts and rights. They're not only hard to do, but you don't realize it when you're doing this one in the lathe. Your hand goes this way, and you can stand in these and do this. When you do this one, your hand doesn't go this way. And unless you stand on the other side of the lathe and use the other hand, this is really a bugger to do. But anyway, I had a good time doing this. I got a pair of these. These are not for sale. I really love them. Stuart Mortimer's quite a guy. I had a great time with him. We housed him a couple times over here when he was doing symposiums and things. A neat guy. I learned how to do a pigtail, and finally, after messing up a few pigtails, I said, damn, I got to make a pig. So I turned a pig, and then I turned the ears and split them. That was turned with paper and split. I don't remember how I did that. Anyway, I thought he was kind of cute, and I liked him, and it was the first time I'd ever made a pigtail that really looked really good. A woman came up at the North Carolina symposium, and I just showed it there for the heck of it. And she says, I want to buy that pig. And I said, no, I don't want to sell that pig. Thank God she pestered me so long, I finally sold the pig back. I shouldn't have done it. I really like the pig. Sometimes you get attached to things. Anyway, I make a lot of little stools. These are fun to make. These are about 10 inches in diameter. I don't know, foot high. You can make these on a mini lathe. And I've made a bunch of these. They're all different. My wife does the wood burning in them. And milking stools. I make bigger stools too. This was made one of my first ones. It's a long story, but I had to learn AutoCAD. First off, I don't have a degree in anything. I've been to college many times. I never had time to get a degree, but I take classes and learn what I want, and then I quit. So one of the classes was AutoCAD, and after I got AutoCAD, I went up to Makerspace and used their CNC router and cut some different patterns. And this is a interlocking puzzle piece with an interlocking ring around the outside. It's the first one I did, and it was quite a problem. But anyway, it turned out pretty nice. And from that, I thought that was kind of neat. So I made another one, and rather than redraw it, this is the same puzzle piece, fits in 4 directions out of 2 different kinds of wood. But that's exactly the same puzzle piece as this piece and this piece and this piece. And it came out really nice. I like this. This is not for sale. I sold the other one finally. But it's amazing. That thing, I don't have use for a CNC router, but it makes a wonderful turning blank. You can do all kinds of things with it. And the things fit together. It takes a little creativity because the tolerances for making drawer fronts or drawer dovetails is not the same as it is for this sort of thing. But anyway, you can get this right to the button and it works beautiful. This is the bottom. The bottom's inlaid. I don't know whether I show the inlays. Yeah, this is the bottom. This is inlaid with a Freud, that inlay router tool. I use that for a lot of things. But for people that really like my stools, I give them a stool sample. These are little stool samples. I've given a lot of those away.
Boy, they're very quiet. I mean, you don't hear anything right now.
They used to bother me. I'd do a whole demo and they wouldn't have noise. And I thought maybe my sound's not turned on or something. Anyway,
This is amazing stuff, Jim, and there is a lively discussion and comments. So,
oh, really? I can't.
Nobody wants to hear me barking at them.
No, you can say anything you want or ask questions. I have no problem with that. This is the same kind of pattern that was in the top of that first stool, only I made a tray out of it. This is turned on a faceplate, and actually these handles go out a little further. This was actually turned in a rectangular piece, and screw holes were put through the sacrificial part out here, and here on 4 places. And the outside of this was turned, and the inside, the whole inside was turned. Then the screws were taken out and put in here in this web in here, and this handle was turned. Then you take the screws out and you cut the outside, that outside piece out on the bandsaw, and you got handles on the outside of your tray. That's the back of it. I've done a few of these. They're kind of fun to do. Pepper grinders. These are salt shakers and pepper grinders. Most pepper mills have a big wooden top on the top of these things, and you turn that and it grinds pepper. This is hollowed out, and the top of this has holes in it, 6 holes in it, and this top comes off. You put salt in here, so it's a salt shaker on the top with a pepper mill in the bottom. And these are pepper mill lighthouses. We make a bunch of these. A lot of people turn pens and pencils, so I turned my pencil this way. This is actually a turned pencil. This is, you put a piece of wood on a faceplate of a lathe, say 3/4 inch block of wood, 6 inches square, and turn a pencil, the outside of a pencil, turn half a pencil. And then when you part it off, you've got a whole ring of half a pencil. You cut it in half and put the two halves together, and you've got a half round pencil. And you take another pencil and pull the brass ring off the end and cut a little hole in the end, or drill a little hole in the end, put a little lead in the end. But this is also a dovetail pencil box. This fits in here, and this was made on a Shopsmith, by the way. And if you ever make one of these, make the pencil box first, because it's easy to make the pencil to fit. The other way is a bargain. I learned a lot of this the hard way. These are different pencils and pens. I made a sled for my table saw to cut Celtic knots and all kinds of things in pen blanks. All my pens and pencils are made with a triangular grip on them. These I made these just to show these different configurations, but I make all my pencils or pens now with a triangular grip, and that's done by hand, by eye, actually. These are all different Celtic knots, different ways of doing things. Lots of fun. It's all done on a table saw when it's square. A friend of mine collects mushrooms, and she wanted me to make her a mushroom for her collection. So I made her a mushroom pen. I made 3 of them. These are actually big pens, and I think this is holly with a mahogany red. There is a mushroom like this. We used to call them pinkies. I'm not allowed to pick them anymore. It gave my wife a headache, so she doesn't let me pick them. But anyway, this is the pens. And this is a vial. I might have shown this. Did I show this?
No.
I might have shown it. Anyway, this vial is I got 250 of these. They were throwing them out. One of the schools threw them out, and I just can't throw that out. So I wasn't sure what the thing did. Actually, in sampling different liquids and powders and things, if they want to keep it for a long time, they pour this bottom section full of the stuff, and they heat this bulb up here and twist it. And when you do that, you seal the thing, this bottom, it breaks off, and you seal this in glass. So it's kind of neat. And I wrote an article. I've written articles on that. I thought I had more pictures. Anyway, this is a 2-center turning, 3-center turning. The bottom is 1 center, and then there's 2 centers on the top. That's 3 different ways of doing the same thing. This is called I can't think, endless. I forget what they call this thing. Endless cube or something. Anyway, it's not too hard to make out of square, and I made one of these as a prototype, and I thought it'd be kind of neat to make that round. I made a round one, and a round one is much harder because you don't have the sides to get your 90-degree cuts off of. This was written up in American Woodturner, the journal, last year, I think. But anyway, that's the finish, looking at the top of it. These are the pieces. This was poplar with cherry splines. Each one of these pieces is turned, and then that's a piece. That's just a burn line. That's not a separate piece, but that's what it looks like pre-assembled. And then you start assembling them and glue them together. They got to be exactly square and straight, or the last piece won't go together. I lucked out. I got it right, but this is the whole thing in 2 pieces. This was 3 pieces. Here's the 3 different pieces here, and then I actually put tape on these and mark them with different colors. So this one here is going to index up and go on to there. This one's going to go on to here. So this is in 2 pieces. When you get all done, it looks like this. It's not much use, but it's fun to have. Anyway, these I call shark tooth bowls. These are like, oh, you take a cylinder and cut teeth in it or whatever you want, a configuration in there, and then turn a natural edge bowl out of it, turn it 90 degrees and turn different bowls. This is kind of a flat one. I think this one had a sacrificial piece in the center of it, but this is a long skinny one. It's a short fat one. This is a bowl that broke in half, so I cut the middle out of it and put pieces in it. That really works nice on some woods especially. And I'll tell you, they sell better than a regular bowl. These are oak bowls. This is a long story, but they had a tree come down up here, and it was a historical tree. And they asked me if I wanted it, and I said no. And my wife said, yeah, he wants some. So I ended up turning 49 bowls out of this. And I think about 48 of them broke. I don't know, a lot of them broke. Anyway, I cut some of them up in slices and turned bottoms on them. And the slices, people love these things. Also, I wanted to show this. Instead of bow ties, I showed before I used that Freud inlay tool. I make a pattern. And when you make a pattern with this Freud inlay tool, you can cut the inside and the outside to do it. An inlay and then cut a place where the inlay fits into it. Instead of doing a bow tie where you'd have square corners and you'd have to chisel it out, I do it like a dog bone kind of thing. And I make my own. I make them in all different sizes. So I actually make these little dog bones, and then I use the same template, and you put it on here, hot melt glue it on here, and you put a ring on this cutter to set the cutter in 1/16 of an inch, and you cut the whole center out of here, and that dog bone snaps right in there. It's really neat. I made a cherry bowl, and I got this done, about 10-inch cherry bowl. I got it all done. And a doggone thing a day later broke. A big crack came right down the side. My wife said, you can't throw that out. You got to fix it. You got to do something with it. So anyway, she always wins. I always win, but then I do what I'm told. I set the bandsaw at an angle of the crack. And I cut the crack out about 5/16 of an inch thick. Set a piece in there. I cut this out, set the piece in here, and returned the inside of the bowl. And it came out. I won all kinds of stuff with this. Yeah, it really turned out to be great. Instead of a $50 cherry bowl, I've done really well with this. This is the same thing done in a maple bowl, I think, with a finial out the side that probably cracked or something.
Norwegian maple with lacewood.
Yeah, this is Norwegian maple
Lacewood.
with a lacewood finial. She remembers all these woods. But at one of the symposiums, I don't remember what the theme was, but I made a platter with a wood turning and a tool. This is a piece of walnut cut in half down the middle, book matched. So this side matches this side. It's glued together to make the panel in the back. And these are filled in. Want to know the truth? I don't know how I cut that. Anyway, nice job. This is a dogwood turning with a dogwood chip. A stainless tool with a brass barrel, maple handle. Each 2 of these cherry scallops here or a cherry ring, like a picture frame ring, cut and mitered. So there'd be 1, 2, 3, 4 of those. Yeah, 5 of those. Anyway, they're all cut and mitered. And this was gonna be pewter. And I got about 3 of them done and they look great and I ran out of pewter. So they're painted silver. You have to go with the punches, but I still got that. It got dropped later and cracked. I had to put it back together. But this is kind of hard to explain. You know, the John Beaver radius jig you used to cut radiuses on the bandsaw. This starts out 2 pieces of Purple Heart, 3 by 3, 6 inches long. No, 2 pieces of wood, 3 by 3, 6 inches long. One is maple, one is Purple Heart. You take one of them and you cut a radius out of here. And then you do the other one, cut the same radius out of there. And you glue the maple to the Purple Heart. And then on the other one, you glue the Purple Heart to the maple. Then you turn it around the other way and you cut it the opposite way. And you glue each one to the other one. And you end up with this football shape or oval shape in the center of the piece. I left this one square so you could see that. This is a box. But actually, I turned this one over. This top matches this bottom. So these are Purple Heart maple with Yellow Heart trim on this. But it's all done on the bandsaw, the cutting. If your name's Duxbury, you turn duck wine bottle stoppers. This is turned on 4 centers. There's 1 center for the whole thing. There's a center for this wing, a center for that wing, and a center for the neck. So you wouldn't want to make your living doing this, but it's kind of fun. Turned to baseball. Somebody won an award, and they wanted an award with a baseball on it. I have to tell you, I had somebody else draw the seams. I still can't draw the seams on a baseball. I don't know what the secret to that is. Thank God I can't do that. Emmett Kane was here, did a workshop in my shop for one of the clubs. And this is real green, I think it's red oak, ebonized multiple times. And then actually it's turned and these fins cut in it. And then he puts little blocks of wood here and there and lets it dry and ebonize. And then cuts and he does gold leaf and different colored paints in the top. It's kind of fun. These are all turned out of Trex. These could all be used outdoors. My son made a patio and he made it out of the trimway. No, a lot of the patio was made out of Trex decking. And I thought I'd be smart and make him some finials. So I made him a couple of finials with loose rings. God, they are gorgeous. A tenon on the bottom, so you could just drill a hole, glue it in there. And he didn't like them, so I got them back. These are bottle stoppers made out of different colored corian or different colored Trex. And this is a box made out of Trex with saw cuts in it with different colored Trex inlaid in it. And there's a pen made out of Trex. It's kind of, I still don't like turning any of the acrylics, but anyway. We dumped a lot of wine over at different parties and things. People talk waving their arms around, and the long stem glasses didn't go over good. So I turned I took wine glasses and cut the stem off and made wine glass, shorter ones with bigger bases. And we haven't knocked many of those over lately. I turned toys, tops. I don't do these anymore because the kids can throw these things. And some guy said the kid dented the refrigerator or something. And So I don't do this anymore. I turn the smaller ones. These are small tops. This is one of those illusion toys where you pull the string in and out, and if you pull this string goes in, and that sort of thing. Ball and cup game. I made the advanced model of this. I don't have pictures of that. It has 8 of these balls on it, and it takes a half a day to string all the strings, but it's kind of fun. Back in the 1400s, before escapements were known, Leonardo da Vinci was trying to make a clock. He didn't have a clock. Nobody knew what 10 o'clock was. There was no such thing. So he made this sort of a thing. This is the timing mechanism for a clock. It keeps terrible time, but it's sure fun to watch. This arm swings around. These are weights on the bottom. And the gears were all cut on a scroll saw. I think they're 8-to-1, I think, on this. So it gears up. I don't remember what the gearing is, but anyway, when you pull on this, it swings this arm around. And this is my wife's old necklace with a fishing sinker on the end. As this flies around, it catches this outer ring here, this outer pin, and it wraps around there. And then it unwraps around there, and it catches this one, and it wraps around that one. And it unwraps around that one, and it comes flying around here and does the same thing on this side. And it keeps terrible time, but it's mesmerizing. It's just, you could watch this all day. Just, have you had enough yet?
9:35.
This is my lathe. I have a Powermatic lathe, or what used to be a Powermatic lathe. I'll start at one end and go to the other end. All the knobs, I don't use steel knobs on any, or arms on anything. I like wooden handles. And they're all a little bigger and a little longer, so you don't have to lean on them. Here's my knockout bar, hangs down the back of the motor. Even the handle on here is wood. This is a Model A, and the Model A came with a steel door with a screw in here, was about 1.5 inches long, and you had to unscrew this thing forever to get to see what was inside here and change the belts. I threw that out and made a plexiglass door and a button magnet on the top, and all you do is hinge this down and change the belts. And I'm always changing belts and things, so that's really worth its weight in gold. The bar on the back had that dizzy cage on it. I cut the bars off of that, used that to make the mounting for my dust collector. This is the dust collector. It's a 4-inch PVC. It's got a thumb screw in here in this piece of welded pipe, bolted to the intake here. On the Powermatic, the only on-off switch was over here. When things started going bad, you had to reach around here and shut it off or change the speed or whatever. And I didn't like that, so I put in a remote on-off switch. It's down here. And I have 3 plugs here, phono plugs. This is actually plugged into there so that I can unplug this, or I plug it in and then that becomes active too. So I can turn it on or off from either place. There's another hole under here. I have the same kind of a switch with a magnetic base. These are just handy boxes. Only the other one, instead of being an on-off switch, it's a momentary. You lean against it or push on it. When you push it in, the lathe comes on. When you back it up, let off of it, it goes off. So in drilling, you set this up here and you put one hand on the drill chuck and one hand on the hand wheel, and you lean against this, and the lathe comes on, you crank it, you drill a hole. If something starts going to hell, you just back up and the lathe goes off. So it's a wonderful safety switch or safety feature. I also have under here another one, and that's for a foot switch that's hanging on the wall here somewhere. Anyway, you can put a foot switch on here. Neither one of these can be plugged in full time, because if you bump a foot switch, or you bump a momentary switch, that lathe's gonna come on. You plug it in when you need it, and you unplug it when you're done with it. You do not leave that in there. Let's see what's next.
It's 9:35.
It's okay. You get tired of cranking this hand wheel. And the thing goes out 4 inches or something. It's 3,000 RPM to turn it out. And anyway, I made a wooden turbine for the end of this. You give it a spin, and right here is my air hose. You hit it on the bottom, and it catches, it takes off, and it runs about 400 RPM in reverse, and the quote just goes right back out. Or if you want it out, you spin it this way and hit it on the top, and it runs 400 RPM out the other way. Saves you a lot of time and trouble. The tailstock itself, the tailstock gets in the way a lot of times. I'm always moving this tailstock. It weighs 80 something pounds, 85 pounds. And I'm tired of lifting 85 pounds on it up and down. I don't need it. So what I did is, there's a round washer underneath the bed that locks this thing on. I cut the sides off of that. So this is 1.5 inches wide, the same width, a little smaller than the width of the slot in the bed. And then I put an arm on this, goes out with a bloodwood handle. And what you do is you unloosen this, pull this handle, and then tighten that. And this brings this up against here. It indexes 90 degrees. So you go from this other way here, this way to 90 degrees. Now that's a release. And then once it's released, you loosen this handle here, pull this knob and tighten that handle. That locks that in 90-degree position. Now that thing is loose on the bed. You put this hook in the top of here and you push the button, and there's a winch on the ceiling and it pulls that straight up. That Dizzy hinge they sell you is $300, and all it does is hinge the thing around the back of the lathe. This winch costs $100. I think it's about $80 if you got a coupon. Anyway, and it lifts it straight up. I use that a lot. Oh, I have to show you. I have to show you one more thing. I needed a spring for this. I got this all together. And in the locking position, there has to be a little spring in here. Push on that so that this can't vibrate around and come loose again. I looked everywhere for a spring for this thing. You'll never guess what that spring is. That spring is out of the axle of a toilet paper holder. You know, the toilet paper roll, the thing in the middle.
No kidding.
It's perfect. It's long and it doesn't have much pressure. It worked out perfect. You got to be creative.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I think I gotta make me one of them for my lathe.
But now the toilet
Wow.
paper's on the floor. I got to get a new toilet. No, it isn't that bad. I always wanted a 20-inch sanding disc. And damn, those things cost a fortune and I don't have room in my shop. Also, they turn 3,000 RPM or something. You could lose an arm on the thing. I made an MDF disc. I think it's 2 layers. You'll see the other side in a minute. And turned it round and flat. Bought the 20-inch disc. This is 80 grit sandpaper. And my God, does that sand, I'll tell you. And you can turn it down to 500 RPM. You could do your fingernails on this thing. It's fabulous. You have got to have a dust collector. If you didn't have a dust collector, you couldn't see your hand in front of your face in 3 minutes. It just eats wood. Not only has a dust collector, I had to remake that's the holder for the regular position. I had to make another holder for this thing, but it fits right up underneath there. And then there's a piece that fits underneath here, a little chute kind of to deflect the dust, but that thing really works. And I had to make a table for it, but I really like it. Oh, the other thing is, anytime you make a disc this big, I showed before, just the disc. This is when I first put it on here. Oh man, this works nice. I probably had it going about 800 RPM. I shut the lathe off, and the mass of that thing unscrewed it. And if you've ever seen the Tasmanian Devil, my God, you just get out of the way, man. That thing sanded and ran all over the shop. It would jump as high as the table, and it just ran all over the place. Finally ran out of steam, and I thought that won't happen again. I now tightened the little Allen nut in the back and Allen screws in the back of that thing. But just beware, if you put something heavy on the end of there, my God, when it comes off, I'll tell you that it has momentum you wouldn't believe. That thing ran around for 5 minutes. We do some demos out in the field. This is a historic farm up the street from us, Cedar Rock Park. And this is one of the original old buildings down here. And that's I forget, in fact, that's where the guy lived, I think, while he was building his other house. But we actually turn wood out in the woods and show how trees are cut and bowls were turned back in the pioneer days. People love it. We have a great time doing it. And my wife gets me into this. I don't have a great time. I do it, but we set up in the middle of nowhere. The one year it rained, and my God, we got soaked. But during COVID, a lot of these guys at maker spaces had 3D printers, and they printed up headbands. Oh man, this is fun. They printed up all kinds of headbands. They got together and made thousands of them. When it came to making face shields, they had no idea how to cut out acrylic face shields. So I made a jig to cut these out. And this is my wife touching them up. Oh, here's the bird. See, he's in here. Bean is in everything. Anyway, we made hundreds of these things, hundreds and hundreds. I don't know how many loads of these. They donated them to the hospitals. This is when COVID first started, you know, and face shields just plain weren't around. I also do some flat work. This is the top out of our kitchen. We had a granite top put down, and this is the sink top piece they cut out. And after about 6 or 8 years, I finally figured out I'm going to either do something with that or throw it away. And I had it rounded out, the edges rounded out, and I built a cart for it. And then I thought, rather than have just a cart with shelves, I'd make this into a wastebasket. So when you push this lever on the bottom, that hinges out, and it's a wastebasket. It's designed to be the same size as a paper shopping bag. And this has been really great. Anyway, that's enough. You've seen enough of me. I have a great time doing this. I don't know if I can get back to the plan, the kaleidoscope. Let me try doing this over again.
Jim, that was absolutely awesome.
Thank you. Go ahead with something else. I'll try to get back to this.
Yeah, that was great. You have some fantastic stuff, Jim.
Thank you. We have a good time. Like I say, I do enough wood turning. I'm not putting cameras on my lathes and things.
I'm glad your wife likes to help you or do it. I'm glad she likes to do it.
It's really fun, and I really enjoy it. Let me see if I can find this.
What do you do in your spare time, Jim?
Hey, the hard,
Yeah.
well, the hardest part of this whole thing is, you don't realize it, but I'm doing another screen share here. When you work in your shop, when you set a screwdriver down, it's in the back of your head. And you could come back 3 months later and pick the screwdriver up. If somebody
Yeah.
picks it up and puts it in a drawer, you could spend
Mhm.
all damn day finding a screwdriver. Okay?
Yep.
And it's wonderful to be out there. I do the same thing to her, so it's not one-sided, but anyway, I'll do the screen share. Can you see that again?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
On the kaleidoscope, this is on the normal kaleidoscope, the hole is right in the center because it's an equilateral triangle of mirror. On this one, it's a 30, 60, 90 degree triangle. So the mirror goes way over to this side and comes over to this side. And there's a short side on this side. So in order to get this hole inside the mirror, it's got to be towards one side of the circle here.
Explain why.
Does that make sense? Did that answer the question?
For the person that asked the question, does that answer it if you're still on?
You fell
Now,
asleep.
he's not on here.
You fell
Okay.
asleep. Okay, sorry
Yeah.
about that. Here you can see it here, but
But yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I understand what you're talking about. You can't, it's no longer a equilateral triangle, so the center of it is offset.
yeah, on my original kaleidoscopes, on these, that's an equilateral triangle, so the hole's in the middle. And I do that because people that just pick up kaleidoscopes like these handheld ones over here. Oh, damn. Like this, when they pick this up and want to look through a hole, they don't want a little 1/4-inch hole. They want the biggest hole you can see through. And this is a 5/8 hole on this one. When you start getting into different mirror configurations, the hole not only has to be offset, but it has to be smaller a lot of times to get within the triangle of the mirror. So you end up with a smaller eye hole. It's much less user friendly.
Oh, but it gives different patterns.
There's a whole science to mirrors. I could do a whole thing on mirror configurations if you want, but there's a whole science to mirrors. And this guy Brewster in 1816 developed this. And you got to remember, this is before light bulbs and television and all that sort of thing. To look through a tube and see all these gorgeous images was like space age. God, he made a fortune selling these, and then Charles Bush Green brought it to this country, and he made a fortune. After supper, there was nothing to do. You went to the parlor and you played games, or you sat in front of the fire and read or something by candlelight. These got to be so popular, they got nicknamed parlor scopes because they would go in the parlor and they'd look at the different kaleidoscopes and put different ends on these things with different objects, and they'd trade them with the neighbors and all that sort of thing. So it got to be like the next thing to television, okay?
Wow.
Anyway,
Jim,
yeah,
what's the price range of those things when you sell them?
Which one?
these here,
Well, the other ones, the one on the stand,
or this kind, I start out, these are about 175 bucks.
okay. What
the
about the
ones-
ones on the stand?
These kind go about 280, somewhere in there.
Okay,
And then, these are around 350, 400, depending what they're made on, and the mirrors and that sort of thing.
yeah,
The big one goes, this one here went about, I don't remember what that was, $3,000, I think, somewhere in there.
Oh, my goodness.
And then the big one is about, these go probably another $3,000 or $4,000. And then
Wow.
here again, they can be all customized. You can put your initials in this side or whatever you want. They can be customized to anything. The big one's about $7,800.
Okay,
There's a lot of work in that, and
yeah. Thank you.
yeah,
See that.
sure. Thank you for having me. It's wonderful. I love to share, and if you
Yeah,
got
thank you for
questions, don't
sharing. That was wonderful.
If- I suppose it's a commercial, but if you want to make these, I do have plans. I ended up turning a kaleidoscope years ago. And when I first got it, I thought, that's kind of neat. I showed it at the club. And then everybody was calling me and they'd want to know, how long do you make this and how big do you do that? And what do you do? I was drawing kaleidoscopes on napkins and cardboard boxes and all kinds of stuff. And finally, I sat down and made a set of drawings. And then after a while, it's a long story, but I ended up making a DVD. I really didn't want to be on a DVD, but anyway, I made a DVD on how to make them. And then nobody wanted hand-drawn drawings anymore for kaleidoscopes. So I had to go back to college, learn AutoCAD, draw this thing, and so now I have plans and whatever else if somebody wants to make them. But thanks for having me. It's great. Love the place.
It was very much
It was
nice to have
great,
you do
Jim.
this. I
That
think
was
we all
great,
need to
Jim.
wipe
That
the
was
drool
great.
off.
Okay.
We need to wipe the drool off our chins and get right back to the wood turning
And that
again.
looks
I mean,
good.
I'm sitting here mesmerized. It was just a fantastic program, and what you did. I mean, I was always amazed at your work. Now I'm shocked by it.
Never.
So, but it was very nice. And folks, Jim mentioned earlier that he writes, and I got to go to the right page here. Nope, I got to go to another page here, and I'm looking at the next issue of Wood Turning magazine, which is produced out of the United Kingdom. And the next issue's got an article by Jim Duxbury on how to design an OG shape of a segmented bowl. I think y'all saw one of those earlier today.
You got it. You did.
And that's where Jim's going to be in there. And that's next month. Now, if you don't choose to get this from Britain, I get mine right here on my iPad, and it cost me $3.27 a month, and it came through Amazon. And I get the edition, and I get to keep it. Now, what I know now is you can't print from this, but there's a way around that. I won't tell you that, okay? But that's where.
Well, I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure I was supposed to say things like that, but I actually, for a beginning turner, it's fabulous because in the AAW they have pictures of all kinds of fancy artwork and stuff. That wood turning magazine actually has articles like 6 or 8 projects with drawings, material list, step-by-step instructions for people that want a project or something. It's just fabulous. And it's from basic to some fairly advanced. I've got articles in the next 4 issues or something. I really enjoy writing for them.